Colloquium. So today we have the privilege of having Dr. Marc Gonin. So I'll give you a brief introduction about that, Dr. Marc Gonin, and then we'll go to the lecture. So Dr. Marc Gonin is a Swiss physicist and entrepreneur recognized for his groundbreaking work in the time-of-flight mass spectrometry. He earned his MSc and PhD in physics from the University of Bern, where he focused on mass spectrometry applications and space research. Following his postdoctoral work, Dr. Gonin joined Ironworks Inc. in Houston, Texas, where he led research and development efforts on mass spectrometry systems targeting gas, plasma, aerosol, and surface analysis. In 2002, he returned to Switzerland and co-founded Toffwerk AG, in turn serving as its CEO. Dr. Gonin has revolutionized the practical applications of mass spectrometry by making high-performance analytical instruments more accessible and deployable in the field. This has empowered scientists and industries to conduct real-time, high-sensitivity chemical analysis outside traditional laboratory settings. His visionary leadership continues to position Switzerland as a global hub for mass spectrometry innovation. With this brief introduction, I would like to invite Dr. Gonin for his talk. Thank you.
Very much. This sounds very flattering. I don't know where you have all this information. That's great. Yes, I was supposed to talk to you about time-of-flight mass spectrometry in atmospheric science, and I'm trying to do this, but actually your knowledge in atmospheric science is so much better than mine, and your use of time-of-flight mass spectrometry is also quite extended, as I hear today. So I will more focus on the company so you can better understand what Toffwerk is and what we are doing, I think. Still in connection with what you are doing, atmospheric science. So Toffwerk is a company headquartered in Switzerland, and we have offices in Boulder, Nanjing, Tokyo, and in South Korea. And, oh, sorry. This slide is now missing. I have another slide, and we really would like to, or I personally would like to open an office in India. That's why I'm here. And so I have another slide, which unfortunately I couldn't move to your system. We will hopefully open an office of Toffwerk soon in India for better support of our users in India mostly. We have a lot of partners we are working with. You see here many of them. Some of them you recognize. You may recognize, of course, Aerodyne, and some you may not recognize. These are more in the semiconductor field. We have a main collaborator, which is Bruker. We work more and more together with Bruker. This is where we are in Switzerland, and I think for this community, I have to say we're close to Interlaken because it seems that a significant percentage of Indian people marry in Interlaken, is my impression. So it's a very popular place. Thun is between Bern, the capital, and Interlaken in the heart of Europe. You see here, Thun is more beautiful than Interlaken, of course, on the lake of Thun, and this is the building we are in. We are becoming a more and more mature company, so we also have to have a company mission, and Toffwerk is making the world a cleaner place through innovation solutions for chemical analysis. This is what we came up with, and I think this is also a little bit what you are working on. Toffwerk is quite complex. We have analysis of many different aggregate states. You see, we measure gases, liquids, solids, and plasmas. So basically everything. We have decided at least to focus on some markets. This is semiconductor, air quality, and food flavor and fragrance. So we try to get some focus. Our customers are academia, government, industry, and OEMs. OEMs are other companies that we supply parts to. For example, Aerodyne is our largest and most important OEM. And we have 5 technology centers in our company. One is working with chemical ionization. One is working with inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry. One is working with electron ionization. This here is FIB, is focused ion beam. That's a tool part of SAM scanning electron microscopes. So this group is working on tools for electron microscopes. And EC-TOF is a combination of EI and CI. They have EC, electro, and chemical ionization TOF. I will present all these things. So it's quite complex. And I will start by going through these markets a little bit. So I didn't quite tell the whole truth. We have semicon, air quality monitoring, flavor, fragrances, and this is also where we have the plant VOC analysis, plant science. I've heard that there are some plant scientists here. And we have atmospheric research through Aerodyne, through an OEM. We are quite involved in this, but I also have to say we have not the same knowledge in this field as Aerodyne has, and this is why we split the work. They do the communication with scientists as you are. That's why you mostly have to do with them, and we try to make good instruments for them or help them build good instruments. That's how we share the work. And this is the same, a little bit more in detail. You see we have here ACR, atmospheric chemical research, how we call it. This should be AQM, not AQR, air quality. And then these other markets, here we have some invisible markets. This is something I want to do soon. That's not official yet. You hear some more details than is official. Then we have the markets is segmented in regions, right? Companies have markets and they have regions. These are two independent dimensions in a company. And in India, we work, or Aerodyne works through Tescorn, and we also try to work through Tescorn for this market, air quality monitoring, food flavor fragrances. Maybe we do directly through the new company. Currently, it will also be Tescorn. We will see. This is part of negotiation that Tescorn and us will have. Korea, I have another example here. We have also discrepancy. The instruments for atmospheric research go through a company APM, that's aerosol particle measurement. And the air quality is going through Toffwerk Korea. So this is sometimes confusing for people like you are. Why are there two different companies that I have to treat with buying almost the same instruments? Well, it's not exactly the same instruments. We will see why. I will explain later. So companies are quite complex somehow, and this is why you sometimes find yourself in strange situations when you handle with them, right? You have these many people involved coming from different areas in the company. Some are regional, some are further back in the support, and this makes it a little bit strange sometimes, I've heard. What is the difference between ACR, so the research, and AQM, air quality monitoring? I made here a table to explain this. So responsible for ACR is totally Aerodyne, whereas AQM, Toffwerk or Aerodyne both can go into this market. Customers, that's the main difference from a company point of view. ACR, these are mostly academics, whereas AQM, it's the government and industry, which makes a big difference, right? These are very different customers, and you have to have a different knowledge to approach them. The users are typical PhDs here and should be technicians in this case. The products here are mostly instruments. We think about instruments. Here it's solutions. Applications, here you use the instruments for multiple different purposes, different use cases, we call this. And you are even developing your use cases. How do we have to measure something? It's research, right? Whereas AQM, you typically have one instrument covers one use case, and it does this well, but nothing else. Software needs to be universal here. This makes it complicated, and post-processing is included. Here it needs to be simple, and you don't want to see mass spectra. You want results that are interesting for the purpose. Goal, as I said, this is for science or for development of things, whereas here it's more for monitoring or control to see if regulations are met, things like that. And in sales, you have to have technology expert here. I always say, who of you knows Doug Worsnop? Please raise your hand. Doug Worsnop? You haven't met him? You know him? Yeah. So he's considering himself as an atmospheric scientist, right? I call him salesperson. He's very offended by this, but it's true. You have to have the best experts in sale if you want to sell to this, to ACR. Here it's, you have to know a lot about the regulation as well and other things than just the technology. So I hope I could explain a little bit why we make this differentiation. From a company point of view, it's really quite different. I go to the first market. This is this ACR, and as I said, Aerodyne Research is covering this, and I actually shouldn't even talk about this because I don't know too much, because Aerodyne is doing it. So I will a little bit talk about the history, how we made this happen, because it's at the same time very much the history of Toffwerk as well. And you see, I start in 2001. That's 1 year before Toffwerk was founded. I and my partner, founding partner, went to this conference, an Oscillomar conference, and there we met Doug Worsnop from Aerodyne. We met Professor Armin Hansel from Ionicon. We met Jose Jimenez, who some of you know. He was very influential in the development of the AMS. And we had also first contact with Kim Prather. Some of you will also know her. She is an aerosol scientist, very much a technology innovator. So this conference is what brought Toffwerk so close to atmospheric science, actually. This is the roots of it. I had not studied atmospheric science. I had nothing to do with it before. And you see, obviously, this conference also was the initial point for two OEMs, the first two customers of Toffwerk, Aerodyne and Ionicon. In 2002, we made a demo measurement at Aerodyne, and this is literally the moment where we saw the first spectrum, having the first time a time-of-flight mass spectrometer on an AMS system. And you see here Doug Worsnop. He is very happy with what he sees. John Chain is a little bit more skeptical. But we made it happen, and nowadays, basically, all the AMS are sold with time-of-flight mass spectrometers, and I think they even discontinued the version that has a quadrupole mass spectrometer. From the same demo, the first spectrum, you see here, we did wild things. This this is the spectrum what we saw, and I have to say, here you see the AMS and the TOF is here, and this is the high voltage pulsar. It's a little bit bigger as it is now. And this is the data. You see here the mass dimension or mass per charge, and here is the particle size. And this is because we, at that time, were working, we is Catherine, the co-founder, and myself, we were working in a company in Houston, as you mentioned. It is called Ironworks, and we did ion mobility mass spectrometry. So ion mobility dimension is very similar to the PTOF dimension of the AMS. So we could just reuse the same software, and this is why you see here the spectrum in a way as you never have seen it before, but which is more common for ion mobility MS users. Then, soon after, we actually founded Toffwerk. These are the notaries and controllers and stuff. This is Catherine, I already mentioned. And soon after, 1 month later, we did the first demo with Professor Hansel. You see here probably the first PTR TOF in 2002. This is the ion source, the PTR ion source from him and from Ionicon, and this is the TOF that we could take with us from the company in Houston, Ironworks, we worked with, and we used it for demos. I think it's the first PTR TOF measurement here. I'm not 100% sure, but excuse me if it is not true. Then 1 year later, approximately, we had the first sale. This is a CTOF on an AMS system. And I think nowadays it's rather rare to have CTOFs. We have, in the meantime, instruments with higher mass resolution, and mostly these are used. Then in 2005, we did something for Kim Prather. I'm showing this. This is a 80th MS, she calls her instrument. So it's CTOF, that's the mass analyzer. This is because it has kind of a C flight path, and we have positive ions going this way, negative ions going this way. So bipolar detection of ions. Negative and positively charged ions are measured simultaneously. Here, through this hole is where the ionizing laser enters into the system. And she calls this 80th MS, aerosol time of flight mass spectrometer. Many of you are probably familiar with this. She made her own instrument before, which was huge, probably 2 meters long or even more. We made it smaller and compact, and it even had higher mass resolution. Unfortunately, we could not commercialize this instrument so far. But some student of her stole the technology, and it was commercialized in China for some time. So it was quite a successful instrument in China, not through Toffwerk though. Strange story. I went to visit the company actually last year, and there is more story behind it. The founder of this company used to be a student of mine when I was a postdoc in Germany. So it's quite amazing. Then we delivered the first instrument, the first TOF, to Armin Hansel to do PTR TOF. You see, that took some time, right? It was quite a few years later, 3 years after the first demo. The reason is he didn't want to have the CTOF. He said, oh, I need more resolution. And I think you agree, resolution is important in PTR-MS, or how I call it, chemical ionization mass spectrometry. So he was waiting and took us away to develop this, but eventually he bought one. And again, 2 years later, very long delay, we delivered the first instrument to Ionicom. Why did it take 2 years? Professor Hansel had a unique instrument. He did want to pick the low-hanging fruit first before he made the instrument available to other users. That's the truth. So he didn't really inform Ionicom too much about how good this is. But this person here, Mr. Shimono, he was a representative in Japan. And he represented both companies, Aerodyne and Ionicom. From Aerodyne, he represented the AMS, and he realized there is a TOF version. There is a company that provides TOFs, and for PTR, this would also be useful. So he put a lot of pressure on Ionicom to make a TOF version. Ionicom didn't really want to do it. They had other priorities. So he went to them and asked, I really want the TOF version. How much do I have to pay that I get it? And Ionicom came up with a ridiculously high price. I think it was 700,000 euro. And he said yes. Now they had to do it. So he was basically the person that got PTR TOF started. Strange story. 2012, quite the gap here. I probably missed some things, but it was when we delivered the first ACSM to Aerodyne, or it was delivered to PSI, and the second one then went to Aerodyne. PSI is a research institute in Switzerland we sometimes collaborate with. 2017, our collaboration with Ionicom failed, and the reason is they started to copy our TOF analyzers. So we decided to also go to the market directly with a PTR TOF. And this is the PTR product line that we have. And the first Vocus, we call it, was sold in 2017. So it was somehow a divorce, and it wasn't good for both of us. But yeah, we didn't have much of a choice. That's not true. In order to enable this instrument, we had to have something that is significantly better than Ionicom is. So we developed in the time before 2017, we developed this, so that's wrong, it's not 22. We developed this new ion molecule reactor. And the special function of it, it had focusing capabilities. So the ions that are produced in here, they are focused towards the center of the IMR. So there is a much higher probability for them to actually go through the exit and onto the mass spectrometer. This was very new, and this improved the transmission of the product ions probably a factor 100 or more. So our sensitivity increased a factor of 100 more. And for some time, we had a very strong advantage compared to Ionicom. This is why we could enter the market. After that, they copied this. And now I think we are, again, more even, unfortunately. And in 2002, this is probably why this happened. 2002, we introduced a new thing, the Vocus B for bipolar. So we have polarity switching with high frequencies, and these instruments can also measure the negative and the positive ions quasi-simultaneously. You probably have heard of them. They also have higher ionization on higher pressure than PTR, so they have less fragmentation, and this allows for easier identification. Here, that is, unfortunately, I have not the number here. I think it is in 2024. We sold the first time this instrument. It's a GCMS, basically GCMS, and it has two ion sources: a chemical ionization and electron ionization. You remember I mentioned this technology. So we switch between these two ion sources very quickly, and we get both information again quasi-simultaneously. Chemical ionization and electron ionization. This is how the instrument looks now. The first one was delivered to Pete de Carlo. Some of you might know him. He has a long. I think he was also operating the very first Toff that I showed before. So he has a long history in AMS, and he's now a professor. And he bought this first instrument for mobile measurements, CMS with we'll later come back to this technology. 2024, the first Vocus C was delivered to University of Washington, and I think they are doing, oh, that's wrong, it should be GCCIMS. Sorry for that. So this is the most compact Vocus instrument. It fits in a suitcase here or in an instrument rack, 19-inch rack, and it is, of course, mostly for very mobile applications. Or I think I will show that later too. 2024. So we are coming very close to the present. This is a MIPTOF, and it's basically from this year. This year we've sold the first one to PSI again, Paul Scherrer Institute in Switzerland. This is an instrument that is very close to ICP-MS. You see here is the ICP port where ionization happens. So it's a very hot plasma, and particles go in here. They are atomized here, and the atoms are ionized. And then you can measure particles, individual particles. You can measure here down to a size of about 30 nanometers. And you see the composition really of the single particles. It has not exactly a traditional ICP plasma. It has a microwave plasma. That's MIP stands for microwave-induced plasma. And this plasma works not with argon, it works with nitrogen and with normal air. So we can, with this instrument, we can really measure metal particles directly from the air. And we hope, it's a little bit expensive, but we hope with this instrument we can basically replace the exact instrument from Cooper. That's the goal. Then also this year we have we have seen the smallest one before. That's the biggest one, that we call it. The analyzer in it, and this is a version for Vocus for chemical ionization. So we call it Vocus HR. And you see this is an instrument with a large multi-reflection mass analyzer. So that's what was happening in in ARC, atmospheric research from the Toffwerk side, you actually see some things that are only going to happen soon. You see a little bit in the future here, but this is about what we are doing together with Aerodyne and with Tescorn, especially here in India. Next market. This is air quality monitoring. This market is really only in development. And as I have shown you before, I try to figure out what would be useful solutions in this market. And unfortunately, I do not have a lot of agreement in the company so far. So these are my plans. I think it would be good to have something that measures air toxics. Here we are actually proceeding. We should have something that measure odors, because many governments get complaints because of odors nowadays in Europe at least. And air metals is useful. You could argue it's part of air toxics, but I think we should keep it separate because it's probably not exactly the same audience. Air metals, oops. Sorry. And then PFAS is a big issue. I don't know whether this is in India. PFAS, these are these very stable, long-living compounds that in Europe and in the US are very much in discussion now, and many industries should reduce their emission of PFAS because they're called forever chemicals. Nobody really knows what happens with them. Air non-target analyzer. So that's if you have problems where you don't know what the culprits are, what the targets are, you have here. This is, of course, the ECTOF that we have seen before. This is the GCMS with chemical and electron ionization. This is very good for non-target analysis. So this is, if you need this kind of power, this is an instrument for you. I don't really know yet if this has a space in AQM, but maybe. And then we also work on global warming. This has to do with carbon capture and storage and carbon direct air capture and measuring greenhouse gases. So these are the products that I see. These are solutions. If you want to think about what are the compounds of interest, you don't see very much, but we will make lists of compounds. Here, of course, it's PFAS and criteria air pollutants. I did mention this before. Criteria air pollutants are very well defined. It's basically the 4 here and the 2 here on the bottom and lead. These are today serving as markers. How good is the quality of the air. Instead of measuring everything that is in there, you use kind of these markers, which is okay, but of course it's not perfect. And for Toffwerk, of course, it's not okay because we want to have more complicated instrument in the AQM than just these. But and I have a little bit of bet going on that this will change. We will see why. If you look at the instruments behind this, here we have air tox. We have something called Vocus Eiger, so it's a middle-sized Vocus. We have a multi-gas analyzer from Miro. This is an optical instrument from Bruker or Miro. And we have other sensors for things we cannot measure with chemical ionization. And we have maybe a Rapid Plus also. That's something that measures over large distances. You can measure the air quality over compounds, chemical compounds in the industrial things. And of course, everything needs to be transportable. And odor, we need the Vocus speed that you have seen before. So this is how we match these solutions to the instruments. Atmospheric science, of course, it's always mobility is a big thing. You see these instruments are everywhere on ships, blimps, vans, airplanes, and this also needs to be a little bit the case in AQM, we think. So we will have mobile instruments there as well. Here is one of the first measurements we did in Thun, just to show you. And you see here we have a road construction, shows up yellow. The cars waiting in line because the road was blocked are more orange. Mixture of these two. Here we have a hospital, which probably makes hexanal. So with these instruments, you can find the sources. That's, for me, an interesting measurement. You see here a nodal comparison. Nodal, this is the environmental stations in Switzerland. This is a small network of about 10 stations. You see they run a GC with 15-minute trapping period. So it's a 15-minute cycle time. We put the same place, we put a Vocus with 0.5 second averaging time, and the results look quite different, right? GC, you have always an averaging, and with the TOF, you see this is really much more complicated. You have very sharp emission events. So the GC somehow does not represent the reality very well. And if you average our data, the blue data, if you average it to 15 minutes, then it looks very similar. But the point is, if you want to see the reality, you have to go fast. Pollution is local in time and space. And this is where we think we will enter the AQM, the air quality monitoring market. And coming now to food, flavor, fragrances, our next market. Here, unfortunately, I would have liked to show you a movie here. This is an apparatus with 100 plants are stored in these glass tubes. And this is at the University of Bern lab from Professor Erb. He is measuring VOC emissions of plants. And amazingly, we built this the way that the mass spectrometer, which is down here, it's a PTRMS, it's moving underneath these plants and is measuring each plant individually. So you get then data like this. Here you see these peaks, plateaued peaks. This is always a new plant. Plant number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you see how they have different emissions of VOCs. This is very amazing, this experiment. And he thinks that plants use VOC to communicate, and that these plants actually emit VOCs to attract animals that feed on, let's say, worms that attack the plants. That's what he thinks to find based on his research. Quite amazing to me to hear this, but it seems more and more this is confirmed. Here you see the plants in these tubes, and the mass spec is driving underneath. Unfortunately, the movie is not in the PDF. This is another industrial sampler that we did. It's for measuring corks. So this instrument is measuring the quality of wine corks. Wine has a problem that sometimes it gets contaminated with TCA, which basically makes a bad smell. So you cannot drink the wine anymore. And the wineries have a big effort to prevent TCA, of course. And the only weakness now, they very well figured out how to prevent this in all the processes. The exception is the cork. Cork is a natural product, and there are still corks that have TCA. And so far, they were not able to make clean corks, really. But we have this device that measures the TCA of the corks. So it measures TCA in about 10 ppt level in 2 seconds. Each cork is measured individually, and it can measure about 100 million corks per year. So this is a solution. Again, you see it's a big thing. It does only one thing and nothing else, and it does it efficient and well. And I just wanted to say there is no spectrum, but I think there is one. This is an old picture. Current software has no mass spectrum. You see just the quality of the cork, and here is a sorter. The good corks go in one basket, and the bad corks go in another basket. Here is a little bit more about this TCA. It's this molecule back here, and it has 3 chlorine, and therefore it has a very distinct isotopic pattern, and we can very reliably detect it because of the high mass resolving power and the isotopic pattern. And the mass accuracy, I have to say, also. Then the last market is semicon. In semicon factories called fabs, there are many gases in use for etching. So these are very aggressive gases. They can be harmful to the people, but they also can, and this is, I don't have to explain you, I think these gases actually form particles, and the particles are very bad in a semiconductor production. So the air must be super clean in order to avoid these particles from forming and lowering the yield in the production. So we use the same instruments. You see here the PTR instruments. Same instruments are used in the fabs to detect these gases that should not be there. These are the kind of compounds that we measure. It's actually much more than that. But these are basically acids, bases, and volatiles. And so we are using the technology that was originally developed for atmospheric science now in semicon industry. We also do process analysis, process analyzers. Here is a model that measures the gases in process chambers. There is a process chamber down here that's an academic small process chamber here. We connect directly and we measure what is going on in the process. This one here not only measures the gases, it also measures ions. So often we have plasmas in here, plasmas for etching the wafers. So we can also measure the ions in this plasma, not just the gas. And we have a special version here that also measures the ion energies. Yeah, this is a scheme how it looks. Here we have the plasma in the process chamber, and we can basically extract ions. It just flies through the ionizer and then goes back into the mass analyzer. And this is typical data. You see here an experiment with etching process. So this is a pulsed process, and you see they change the time, and you can see what happens, what really happens in this. So we see 2 things where this can be used. First is in process development. So the chips become always more and more complicated. Obviously, there is Moore's law involved that you all know. So we are betting a little bit that this will become so complicated that you use mass spectrometry to develop the processes, to make it really correct and happen. And then there is in production afterwards, you can control if the processes are actually still working okay, and you can even use the mass spec maybe to control the process. You can say, okay, now I have to stop etching because I see already the next layer, things like that. This will take longer, the control will longer. First, it seems we are getting into the process development. Yeah, this is just another process. ALD stands for atomic layer deposition. Okay, now I talk a little bit about technology still. This is, again, the technologies we have. EC is both electron and chemical ionization. FIB, I explained, this is an electron microscope, and you see here the FIB attached to this electron microscope. And the ionization is done with a focused ion beam. And ICP, I already explained a little bit. Let's see what we have here. This is a little bit a matrix of the markets and the technologies. Of course, we try in each market to use all technologies. Here in semicon, we succeed. In air quality, not quite. Maybe in ACR, the FIB could be used to look at particles. I don't know if this is done. FIB, SEM is an OEM instrument. So we do not sell these directly. I don't know exactly what the customers are doing with this instrument. Maybe some people also use it for atmospheric research. But we try to fill this out, use all the technologies in each one of the market, if possible. I'm coming to the ICP. This is I already explained, this is now the traditional ICP we have, the first one. That's already on the market for some years. And you see here, it's not used for atmospheric research because it runs with an argon plasma. Here is the plasma. We use an instrument from thermal. We remove the quadrupole, which normally is in here, and we put a TOF on top. And this is a filter, a notch filter. Here we remove the argon ions, and then we can measure with this instrument elemental composition of things. Here is a measurement example. This is a stone, a mineral, and this is an iron. So you see the distribution of iron in a mineral. Very nice pictures you can make with this. So this is using laser ablation. Obviously, when you have the mineral, you use a laser to ablate always on a new position. You scan the surface, and this is how the data looks. Very nice. You can also do bioimaging. Here it's a rat kidney, and it's platinum concentration in different places. This is for cancer research because this platinum is used in drugs, in cancer drugs. The microwave, we already saw this slide. I can go on. Here is a little bit what we want to do with it. I already mentioned we try to get in the market that is currently done with a Cooper Exact instrument. We see many advantages. It's mobile, whereas this one is too slow to make measurements in a running van. It's fieldable, so you can transport it. Unfortunately, it's a bit expensive, but you have 1 second time resolution, measure basically the same thing or better what they are doing in. No, in 1 minute, you are probably the same as they are in 30 minutes. But you can go down to a time resolution of 1 second. Single particles, it's possible. Measuring single particles is possible. And here I have the LODs for lead. 10-second LOD and 30-minute LOD. Yeah, so this is a little bit the same. We want to basically enable mobile measurements, and that we hope it will be very good for source apportionment, because ICP-MS is extremely quantitative, and by measuring all the metals, we have many markers to do source apportionment, finding out where these aerosols are coming from. That's our hope. And this instrument, as mentioned, it doesn't require argon cylinders. It can run with a nitrogen generator. This is a little bit how the data looks like. So there were first measurements done at Anodyne, and they did this measurement on a close to an airfield. It's lead, and strangely, the fuels for airplanes are still allowed to contain lead. I didn't know this, but we learned it this way. So when they were driving close to the airfield, they suddenly saw lead, and you see sometimes when planes are taking off or landing, you see signals, lead signals in the air. Here is a comparison between the exact and the MIPTOF LOD comparison. Exact 30 minutes, MIPTOF 1 minute. And you see MIPTOF is usually lower, LODs sometimes higher, but usually lower or comparable. It will also be fieldable. We have more and more, we have these electric vans, which have a lot of power. I didn't mention this. The disadvantage of this instrument is obviously that it needs a lot of power. It needs 5.5 kilowatt of power to run it. Compare this to a PTR MS, it's less than 1 kilowatt. So it's really power hungry. But nowadays, vans like this one here, they have a very large battery, and they have a lot of line power available sometimes. This one will soon have 7.2 kilowatts, so it will be no problem to put such an instrument in this van and just measure. Chemical ionization. What did I want to say here? We have two ion sources. So one I call high pressure chemical ionization and medium pressure chemical ionization. I already talked about this. The focusing does not work at high pressure, so this principle of focusing doesn't work at high pressure, but you get more reactions because the pressure is higher. You have more collisions. And I think the world is more and more moving from here to here. EC-TOF, I already showed this slide. Here is a little bit more how it works. You see here, you have switched between these ion sources, so you get spectrum chemical ionization, then EI, CI, EI, and you basically get two different chromatograms, which are perfectly aligned in time because it's actually only one chromatogram running. And you get at the same time the CI and the EI information, which means this is a spectrum here of this compound. And you see here very little fragmentation, mostly parent ions, and here you have the normal EI spectrum, how it is in the NIST library. Many GCMS people want to use the NIST library. They don't want to miss this. So this instrument will allow them keep using NIST libraries, and at the same time they will get much better confirmation of their identification by having accurate mass of the parentyne. So this is for non-target analysis, as mentioned. And here is a picture of the FIBTOF. So that's an add-on to scanning electron microscopes. It's currently sold via those 3 OEM partners. Probably you know Zeiss and Thermo Fisher. Tescom is a more recent, I don't know, maybe you know Tescom better. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you for this. Thank you, sir, for this interesting talk. I would like to open the floor for some discussion and some interesting questions.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you for your nice talk. Actually, we use mini AMS in our aircraft during IPEX. So we used to track seeding particles, and whatever actually went into the cloud that become condensed on it. I mean, so you could detect it.
Yeah.
And of course, Professor Rosnov was there, and Paul also.
Yeah.
Yeah. My question is, what actually inspired you to develop such instrument? Like you're one of the developers, right?
Yes, the mini AMS or the ACSM and mini AMS are very similar, except mini AMS can also measure particle size. But otherwise, it's the same instrument. And I saw that Aerodyne was developing a quadrupole-based ACSM. And I said, oh, too bad they didn't ask us. They should, we could make a TOF version that is probably better than a quadrupole version. So I started to design this instrument together with John Jane from Aerodyne. And he didn't like so much the idea initially. He wanted this to be a quadrupole-based instrument and cheap and monitoring and so it was a little bit against his will initially, but I think in the meantime he appreciates that this is a good thing. And I was maybe a little bit too pushy, towards sometimes you have to push the OEMs a little bit in a certain direction, but I think it's a good instrument, yeah. And mini AMS for flying, perfect. I agree. And I'm happy that you confirmed this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you cannot always ask the customers, right? You know this story from Henry Ford, who said, if I would have asked the customer, they would have told me they need faster horses instead of cars. So sometimes you have to be a little bit pushy, but not too much.
Yeah. Hi, I am also extensive user of your AMS systems. So we do have AMS, SESM, and PTRMS also. Like we do run in our lab. So and a few weeks back, Phil also visited our institute, and he also gave a nice talk about like all your instruments. So my question is basically on Vocus PTRMS. So like you showed, like earlier there was an agreement between you and Icon. You were both working on the PTRMS. So like initially you developed that quadruple ion guide and like BSQ filter for uncontrolled ionization and getting a very high sensitivity, right?
Yeah.
But now they also have come up with a like similar or kind of similar technology to get that or achieve that sensitivity.
Yeah.
Actually, my question is now, like in that present scenario, you both are in an equal space, right? Equal position, equal space. But in case of them, I found actually they can measure formaldehydes, okay, then methanol as a like oxygenated products, but it is very difficult with the VOCA system because of that ion filtering, because you have very high peak at M by Z 37 and 55. Like you have to reduce that to in order to increase your MCP like life. So do you have a solution for that?
Does the VUV PTR help? You want to give an answer?
I just add one comment. So we actually coming up with a new solution for this, and we have something called VUV source. Priyanka will explain more about it.
So basically, we have now a new ion source. It's called VUV PTR. Why is it different is that it does not use plasma anymore. So it requires less power, of course, and it uses a VUV source to generate the ions, the reagent ions that we are using. And using that, we can measure like all these. So we can do O2 plus ions, for example, hydronium ions and other, basically all the ions that we would usually do using the plasma source that are possible with a VUV PTR source.
We
And
have a account of the concentrations also, right? Reagent ion or no?
sorry, can you?
We'll have a account of the exact concentration of.
Yes, you can do that.
reagent source.
Yeah, exact quantification of these compounds.
Reagent
Yeah,
source,
it's
right.
possible. Yeah.
In addition to the.
Yes.
And other question also. In continuation to this, actually, like suppose if we buy PTRMS now, and you have a technology that will be coming in next year, will it be possible to integrate that easily into the older instruments? Because you have to make that in that way, because
I know I can comment on this. Mark, can I? Sure. Yeah. So the VUV source is already integrating. Whatever you are buying from next month onwards, or I think which are in production, they are already integrated. We haven't revealed it to the customers, but it is already integrated with the instruments. Existing instruments are in the production.
so it will be integrated.
It is already integrated. We haven't mentioned in the specification.
Okay. Okay. Because one of the tender that is going on for PTRMS, I'm also one of the inventor of that. So
Yeah, that's
we
what I'm
desperately want, because actually the advantage what I found in this Inicon one is basically like they can measure reagent ions, and even if you don't have any like standardized calibrants for your species, you can always go to NCPS and then you can use what people have reported. Actually, kind of like it will be some kind of uncertainty, but you can utilize that. So that kind of flexibility I felt like the vocus also should have. Then it can match like the complete efficacy of the Inicon ones also. And the second question is like we need to have in India, we need to have TPS repair facility in India. That is actually missing. Actually, I post TESCON also a lot since past couple of years, because it is very difficult to send every time TPS to Toffwerk for repair. So that doesn't like look good, and office also creates lot of objections. Okay, so that you have to keep in mind. So you have to put a some kind of like at least somebody who should be responsible for doing this power supply repairment, because we have seen for some of the instruments within a year we get 3 to 4 times of failure, TPS failure.
Yeah.
And that gives a lot of pain in paperwork and everything, sending that instrument, like we wouldn't be able to run that instrument for a year. Okay, so that is a second comment from my side. And the third one is like I am wondering whether you are you are in process of coupling this MIF top with the AMS or not, like you have a plan, because MIF top gives whatever AMS doesn't give. So do you have a plan to couple both the instruments using a single top mass?
No, that's probably not a good idea. So what you would like to have is a size measurement of the particles.
Okay.
We do size measurement a little bit by comparing the total signal. So the total ion signal is somehow proportional to the size of the particle, to the volume.
Okay.
Right. So we can make some estimates of the particle size, but we need to calibrate it somehow. And I think this will be done at PSI to figure out how well this is actually correlating.
So that work is going on, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
To comment on like clubbing AMS with MIPTOF. So normally both are two different technologies. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's electron ionization. This is a plasma ionization,
yeah.
right? So, however, if you want to measure particles, you can sample at the both at the same time from AMS and also from MIPTOF. You can get kind of like all complete information about
like separate. I was thinking in the same way,
complete
like
information.
you were commenting on like in a like Z fashion.
No, that is a different instrument.
Yes,
that is a laser ablation single particle time of flight mass spectrometer, which was developed by Kim Pater, and then it was, I think, PRL has bought one commercial instrument, but then it was stopped, that instrument, and nobody else is having. Only some educational institutions are having these single particle chemistry instruments. That is based on laser ablation technique. Yeah, but
I have seen one system from like I forgot the OEM. They are selling single particle mass spectrometer that uses like soft ionization, and they give metals, starting from metals to up to organics, molecular marker.
It's a
German company. Yes.
Munich instrument. So see, company name. The
So
German.
Photonion.
Yeah, Photonion.
Photonion.
Photonion has this two-stage ionization.
Mhm.
Yeah, they have this, but
So that's why I was
not
wondering.
completely like single particle. They say single particle.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe Marc will comment on it.
Is laser ablation ionization mass spectrometers, like the set-off based instrument that I've shown you from Kim Prather. I always tried to sell it to Aerodyne, that they will include it in their portfolio of aerosol mass spectrometers. But Doug Worsnop hates it because he says this ionization process with laser ablation and ionization is not quantitative enough. It's not even regular enough. It changes too much. It's too complicated to make it happen the same way consistently. So he didn't want this instrument for this reason. A lot of people have built such instruments in their university labs, and they made measurements together at the same places, and they behaved very differently. For him, being the inventor of the AMS, for him it is important to have like a standard where you can compare things, that were measured in different times on different places, but also at the same time in the same place, that this compares everything, that you have like a good standard. And he says with these instruments that are based on laser ablation ionization, it's not possible to do this. So you cannot do solid science in a way.
One comment here. So basically, when you ablate any airborne particle which is flying in the air or fluid, you cannot ablate the particle completely, because the laser shoots at one place, and it also depends on this
Coating.
Coating, like the reflection of the
Yes.
light. So if light is not capable of ionize completely, you will not get complete information. So every time you will get a different spectrum.
Okay.
Or the same type of particles. Yeah. So it will not be more quantitative.
Because of the different shape factor of particles.
Yeah, that is another issue.
Issue.
Yeah, shape factor is another issue.
I should say Rama is actually a specialist on these instruments, because for a short time we did have an OEM that produced such an instrument, and he was one of the customers of this when he was at KTI, that is Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, Technologische Institute, yeah, something like that. And you were You were
I was using this single particle time of flight mass spectrometer.
for a long time.
Yeah. And actually, we tested with two different lasers, nanosecond lasers and even femtosecond lasers. We thought femtosecond lasers will be more, will get more ionization, but it didn't happen because there will be a lot of more problems because of the optical properties of the particles. So you will not get accurate information. But if it is a standard on the substrate, it will be completely different story.
So it has to be internally mixed aerosols, then only we'll get identical signals, right?
I tried that as well.
Okay.
So for core shell particles, which are having multiple compositions, that didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my last question, so this CIMS, what is the offline capability of like analyzing absorbent tubes or any filter papers with CIMS? Do you have any I heard about this Figaro, I'm aware. But apart from that, how we'll be able to do it with the absorbent that we generally use for GCMS or other stuff?
With desorption tubes?
Yes.
For thermal desorption?
Yes.
I think it would work great. And I think if you do GCMS, for example, you have to use this technology, but you also use a GC, right? So you can use it also for direct real-time with a Vocus. You can do this, I think, and it would work great. I think the people think it's not necessary because the Vocus doesn't need the concentration. These tubes are mostly here to make more concentration, to increase the concentration. And second, usually you want real time, and this you lose also. But I completely see that it's useful somewhere, right? If you want to make samples in a difficult place where you cannot bring a mass spectrometer, then this should work. Yeah, I agree. We should do it. Somebody should do it.
Yeah, actually, that's one question. What are the steps you will take to minimize the downtime of the instruments in India, AMS and all PTRS? Yeah, because sending any part to outside India is very difficult. We have to go through a lot of paperworks, and it's very difficult.
So very good question. You have heard that I want to found Toffwerk India for this reason, to provide better support, and this will be what our scientists will be doing. Yeah. We also have to improve the quality of the electronics, obviously, which we are working on.
Well, one thing I just wanted to comment. Normally, compared to other countries like Europe or US, here we have seen more failures. Something related to, especially in the coastal region, we have seen failures due to the salt, especially. Also, in some areas, due to dust, high concentrations. Normally, we don't do all these very critical tests at lab to pass the instrument. We have a set of standard QC protocol. We follow that, but we are trying our best to improve our systems to make not to use to use more user friendly in different atmospheres, different kind of conditions.
But at least one support has to be there. Like the number of AMS or ACSM or PTR users are increasing like anything. We have more than 20 or 25 users. More than that, like.
Take a call on that.
Please, consider this point actually.
Yeah.
We need that because otherwise we lose like many months just to repair TPS.
Yeah.
Whenever we see software glitch, we just cross our fingers. It should not be a TPS issue.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we realize that it is very important that these instruments are working. When you have a campaign, you many months to make a campaign, and then it should work. Yes, I agree.
Are there any other questions?
So thank you. My question is, Actually, recently we installed ICP-MS thermo. It can be possible to integrate mid-TOF on this.
What ICP-MS is it?
Thermo IMAX.
It's a ICAP MSX.
It's a quadrupole, right?
Let us last one.
Quadruple.
Yeah,
Ah,
quadrupole.
What?
Yeah, MX.
ICAP.
ICAP MX.
Thermo. Thermo.
Thermo ICAP MX. MX.
Ah, MSX.
Yeah. I mean, you have seen the instrument. This is based.
This is similar actually, but we have a quad instead of a. Oh. Same instrument. The structure is similar to that.
Yeah.
But we have a quad. You said now you removed the quad and replaced it with a TOF.
Exactly. Here I can explain. So the thermal instrument stops here. There is a portable.
Yes, we have the quad.
And when we buy this instrument exactly the way you are, there is only one difference. When we order it, it already has the opening here.
Okay.
And your instrument doesn't have this opening.
Yeah.
You should have ordered the same instrument with the hole, then it would be possible.
Okay. So it's not suggesting.
It's very complicated. We would have to ship this to Thun. They would have to remove everything, put this in the workshop, and drill this hole, and then assemble everything. It's possible, but it's a lot of work. We did this for a while this way, and then we could persuade Thermo that they drill the hole and sell it to us with a hole, and it makes our life much, much easier, of course. Send me an email and I put you in contact with the people, with the ICP team.
Sure.
Mm.
And second question is, we are talking about the FB-SEM analysis, no? So can you possible to integrate with EDX also, elemental composition of the particle? Along with SEM.
EDX, I should say, we do not EDX, but there are many EDX tools for scanning electron microscopes already, from Bruker, for example. I think Bruker has EDX system, so you can already buy it. Is this the question? Did I understand correctly?
Yeah, my question is, you are saying about FB-SEM analysis, no? There's a real time?
Yes.
It's real time, no?
The PIP.
PIP Tough MS integrated with EX.
Yes, let me go back here.
Yeah.
These electron microscopes are very versatile instruments. You can buy many, many add-ons. You can buy EDX from different producers already. And we just made a new add-on, which is a mass spec add-on. And I think what you want is you want to combine the EDX data with mass spec data in a meaningful way. And we are actually working a little bit, investigating this together with Bruker, how to do this. So send me also an email. I will put you in contact with the team.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? So thank you, Dr. Marc, and thank you to IITM colleagues for using this as a healthy discussion.